Hi everyone, Huta TCG here. Just came back from my local game store. They had win a Dark Magician of Destruction and Gate of Illusion tournament. We ended up taking first place and we brought a Yummy Mimighoul to the tournament. I was very keen on the idea of bringing Mimighouls, but I just couldn't find a way to make them work. And then I found a list on YouTube that I will link in the description. It was a list for Master Duel for the last format. There was still Herald of the Arclight unbanned, and it really inspired me. Like, I was inspired by this list, and I decided to make my own version for the TCG and also for the new version of the bounty, so without Herald, which of course was a really powerful card. But starting off with the main deck, we'll start with the best part of the deck, which is of course Mimighouls. And we will start with 3 copies of Dragon, Mimighoul Dragon. This is probably the best starter of the deck, alongside with Cupsy. You want to maximize on this normal summon. You have in total like 6 very good normal summons, which are 3 dragons and 3 Cupsy. Of course, you also have the remaining Yummy names. It's not only a starter, it's also like a great piece of interruption. And a great way to clean up boards thanks to the Raigeki effect. Then we run 1 single copy of Mimighoul Fairy. She is your extender. You don't really want to draw her, you want to add it in the combo. But if you draw her with a Mimighoul name, it's fine, it's totally fine. You can extend your plays without searching her. She's the only card that you must activate her from hand to complete the full combo, which I will briefly show later. If they Izuna you because you've activated Mimighoul Fairy, you're already in a good spot in the combo, so you're doing pretty well anyways. So then moving on, we have of course 3 copies of Mimighoul Archfiend, 2 copies, sorry. Why Mimighoul Archfiend and why 2 copies? Well, of course, it's the second best Mimighoul name by far. It helps you to flip your monsters, and also the effect to discard and draw, it's really helpful. Like, you draw into your non-engine and you force your opponent to make a tough decision on what card to discard. Okay, so moving on to the spells, that's the best spell in the deck, which is Mimighoul Creator. Puts out potentially 2 level 1 bodies, which you can then use to go into full Yummy combo, or if you already are in the combo, you can use to trigger another thing, which we'll show later. So moving on, we have 3 copies of Dungeon. Of course, it's another starter. It kind of plays hard into Droll. It's probably the only card that I would consider changing for something else. You may want to adjust the ratios. I think 2 is probably ideal. 3, I think it's too much. It's still a good card because it's a 1-card combo. You can go full Mimighoul and Yummy combo with just this card. So it's up to you if you want to risk to play more under Droll or to have an additional very good starter. That's kind of the trade-off. And then, of course, you have Mimighoul Room. You have to play, in my opinion, you have to play Mimighoul Room if you're playing this deck, because once you know your matchup, you can kind of choose mid-combo if you want to add the room or if you want to do something else. For example, in matchups like Vanquish Soul or other normal summon heavy deck like Yummy, for example, any Yummy variant basically. So moving on with the weakest part of the deck, in my opinion, we have of course 3 Cupsy. 3 Cupsy because of course it's another very strong normal summon. You want to see him as much as possible, especially going first, and it does help as well going second. There's not much to say about the Yummies, I mean, except one thing that I will say right now. So also 2 copies of Lollipo. Why not 1? I'll get to that in a while. And 2 copies of Cooky. So that's it for the monsters. We're not playing Marshmallow. Why? Well, primarily for the cost. It's just a very expensive card for what it does, and it doesn't really, like, it adds something to the deck, which is the fact that you can bring back your quick play from the graveyard, which is really strong, of course. But in this variant, it's not as vital as in like pure Yummy or other Yummy variants. Moving on, we have of course the field spell and the quick play. That's it. That's it for the yummies. Now let's move on to the non-engine that is not hand traps, which are Called by the Grave, which came up a lot during the tournament, luckily. Triple Tactics Talents, because of course you can trigger with your Mimighouls, so it's very strong. And of course the MVP of this deck, which is Triple Tactics Trust. You want to play at least 2, some lists can play 3 possibly, but you risk to break on it. And of course you can trigger these with Mimighouls, so they are really good. I won a couple of matches just because I set the correct trust target in the matchup, and with that you can basically assure you win the game. Moving on, we have the hand traps. We play 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. We play 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Ghost Belle, 2 copies. 3 copies of Ash Blossom to avoid Charmies, of course. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. And finally 3 copies of Dominus Purge, because the deck can play it pretty well, except for just like a few names in the extra deck, which I will show in a while. So I was pretty happy with my hand trap choices. They all came up in clutch and were pretty impactful, to be honest. I don't regret not playing full Wallows in the main, because this deck doesn't really play well for Wallows. Sure, you can draw a couple of cards, but the problem is that Mimighoul and Yummy are not great going second engine. So whether you draw 1 Cupsy or 2 Cupsy or 2 makers, it doesn't really make a difference. If they stop your 1 push or the second push, it's kind of over anyways. So card count going second doesn't really help. What helps is stopping your opponent immediately, and hand traps are the only way to go, like real hand traps, the ones that when you draw you have an interaction and you can stop your opponent. As you can see, these are 15 hand traps and 16 starters, if I remember correctly. You have a good chance of drawing both. Okay, so moving on, we have the extra deck. Starting off with the link ones, which I feel like are kind of mandatory. I played 1 Yummy Snatchy. I played 1 Anima and 1 Link Uribo. I feel you could play literally any Link one that you like. I like Anima and I like Link Uribo. These are the things that you must be careful with your Purge. Yeah, you can also play Almirage instead of Anima, but the deck really does have a lot of level 1s, so it's kind of the same, to be honest. Moving on with the other links, we play the Masquerina package, which is of course 1 Masquerina, 1 Gorgon, and 1 Little Knight. When they least expected, Gorgon really hurts. It can really hurt. Same thing with SP, if the matchup is, for example, Yummy. And yeah, that's about it for the links. Moving on with the XYZs. So for the XYZs we have Giant Mimighoul, which is basically your bridge. With 2 level 1s you make Giant Mimighoul, you make him, and then you usually either add the field spell or maker. So that's strong. Also, it can help to close games. If your opponent is very low in life points, you just make these burn for a couple of thousands of life points and you win the game. Pretty good. And then we have the MVP of the tournament, to be honest. This is the strongest card that supports flip monsters, especially level 1s, which is Ripple Bird. Ripple Bird basically allows you to flip or to change battle position of 2 monsters, because it can detach 2 materials to do it. It's not once per turn. And also it helps you OTK, because while all your monsters are face up attack position, all your monsters gain 500 attack, which is kind of a lot if you have a lot of Yummies on the board. And of course it helps you flip Dragon, so you can Raigeki and then push for game. It's probably the closest thing to a Murakumo that this deck can bring out, and it helped close games every single time. Out of 12 games, I probably made this 10 games out of 12 or something. Moving on with the remaining two Exquisites, we have, of course, Utopic Draco Future and Utopic Future. So these two guys, you may make them during the combo, and they insulate you from monster effects, of course. And then finally the Synchro package, starting off with, I won't take too much time here, but the 3 Yummy Synchros. And then the Naturia Beast package, which is composed by Morphotronic Earphone, which allows you to make a level 1 monster into a tuner. So you make your Mimighoul monster a tuner, and then you have 1 tuner Earth and 1 Earth non-tuner, and you make your boss monster, which is Naturia Beast. If you can reach this point, you probably won the game, so it's kind of win more, but you have to play it, in my opinion, because it's a threat to your opponent. He has to throw everything he has, because if he doesn't, you make Naturia Beast. And if he throws something at you, you use Trust and Talent to punish him, and you know, the other stuff. So yeah, I think that's it for both the extra deck and the main. Yeah, I almost forgot about the side deck drops. Of course, you play 1 copy of Solemn Judgment because it's Solemn Judgment, but then you have your trust targets, and let me just show you what I chose for the trust targets. So I wanted to be sure against Dracotail, so 1 DDG. So Mutually Affair Destruction is the second one, and then of course the other tough matchup, which is Mitsurugi. Basically, the problem with Mitsurugi is that neither the Yummy part nor the Mimighoul part really do anything against that deck. So you kind of have to rely on end traps and of course the non-engine. And it worked, because in the final I was against Mitsu, and I flipped Mischief of the Gnomes, and it worked. Then moving on, very easily 3 copies of Retaliating Sea. It's the only like graveyard hate that you can play around, so I chose to play this and only this. Then moving on, we have 3 copies of Fuwalos, which of course you don't play it in the main, but you can side. If you have like a matchup that doesn't suffer normal end traps, you put Fuwalos in and you hope for the best. You basically hope to scare him that you will draw a lot of end traps, but that's about it. Then again, we have, for the same reason, 1 Purulia, just 1 because it's the only slot left, so I just added a Purulia in. And then finally, I wanted something that could be sided in against spell heavy decks, and I sided in this small side driver package. It was okay. Okay, so that's really about it with the deck. I'll leave you with the pairings and the matchups on screen. I was matched against RB in the first round, then I went against Dracotail, Vanquish Soul in the 3rd match, and then in the finals I was against Mitsurugi Azamina. Please feel free to leave any of your questions, curiosities, observations in the comments. Let's discuss in the comments how would you have constructed the deck differently, if you would have made any different choices, and see you guys in the next one.